Green Bay Packers 27, Kansas City Chiefs 19.
Wow.
Packers move to 6-6. Chiefs fall to 8-4. I would like to declare the Packers the first team. Maybe there were others. Maybe I missed it. But week 13 is when you usually start feeling. Once you get into December, you get the phrase, you don't want to see this team in the playoffs. You don't want to run in to Team X in the playoffs. That is now the Green Bay Packers. Because that offense was absolutely cooking last night. Unbelievable game. Again, Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, a great game by him too. All the misdirection, the run game, the pass game, the aggressiveness, and however that 4th and 1 pass snuck through there. A lot of stuff to unpack in this game. Unfortunately, everybody's going to be talking about the officiating from the last minute of the game. There was 3 to 5 blown calls in the last minute of the game.
I mean, that
are going to be the focus of the attention here. A lot more happened in that game than just the last minute. We'll have to talk about that as well. But what is your initial takeaway from this one? There was a lot of weird stuff in this game, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, that no pass interference call on Marquez Valdes-Scantling on that final drive was insanity.
But the Mahomes one was, I think, worse because that triggered the makeup call. And we posed this question last week.
The hit out of bounds.
Yes. Patrick Mahomes runs 10 yards. Both feet are inbounds.
But that's
he gets popped.
That's only bad because they've rolled back on it this year. Like Terry McCauley, their rules analyst in the booth, actually confirmed what I've been saying for a couple of weeks, which is clearly the NFL has deliberately rolled back this. Because the hit that was on Mahomes yesterday, now, was he technically in bounds? Sure. Were they calling that for like the last 5 years? Absolutely. That's been the kind of hit that if you were even vaguely near the sideline and it was on a quarterback, you were getting popped for 15 yards, roughing the passer or late hit out of bounds, whatever the actual call is there. They've been calling that. And then this year, they've deliberately pushed back on that and saying, hey, if the guy's in bounds, you can't call it a late hit, even if he's like part of him is over the sideline. Like, let's actually call this properly. And then this one is like a jump back to what they were calling for years ago. So
this would have been bad before they were emphasizing it, though.
Absolutely
he wasn't.
Not a
honestly,
chance.
He wasn't halfway out of bounds.
This is the kind of hit that if this was called 2 years ago, no one would bat an eyelid. They'd be like, of course that's it. That's the late hit, and the quarterback can't do that anymore. Now, this year, it's incongruous with the way those hits are being called again. But it's only because they've pushed back on that play.
So because this happened, and the flag came in late, and then they talked about it, and this is what drives me crazy. They're talking about it. They're connected to New York. Somebody can, like the director of common sense can step in and say, don't make this call. And to me, this is what triggered the whole thing. If they pick up that flag, and then, so it's a free 15 yards for the Chiefs. Then Mahomes throws it deep to Valdes-Scantling. It should have been a 48-yard or whatever pass interference. And I don't know if this is on purpose or if it's just human nature. And you know you screwed up the last one, and then there's a makeup call.
But this is the one where the guy in New York needs to be in the ear and say, dude, throw a flag. Like, you missed it. That's clear as day.
Yeah, but the guy in New York's probably like, oh, we screwed up the Mahomes one. I don't want to do. Then we're going to have back-to-back. This is going to look really fixed. Because they're what
it looks less fixed than like swinging back in the other direction and going, nah, I don't care. He can tackle him. It's cool.
No, because when you can't say hashtag rigged. Everybody's saying this thing's rigged. The NFL's rigged. It's not rigged. It's just bad. You can't. It's not. Who's it rigged for? Now, if Mahomes and the Chiefs moved the ball 75 yards on a bad no call or bad late hit call. And then a pass interference, even if it was real.
Only one of those.
That's going to look worse.
Only one of those would be bad.
I get it.
And that one isn't even that bad.
I thought it was horrendous.
No.
I thought it was absolutely horrendous.
He was
in the playing field. So anyway, and then there's the pass interference that they missed. And I'm just curious if it's like on purpose or whatever. And then it was like, it's the Chiefs' turn for a call. So Mahomes hits Marquez Valdes-Scantling along the sideline. The rule is if you run out of bounds, you have to be moving laterally or forward when you run out of bounds for the clock to stop. Well, Valdes-Scantling starts retreating backwards. They do this so that you can't just like run 70 yards backwards and run out of bounds and stop the clock when you're trying to run, the clock out in the game. Valdes-Scantling is retreating to try to stop the clock. They say it's a stopped clock. And then I think the least egregious out of all of it is the Hail Mary. There's a push in Kelsey's back
Yeah,
on the
the
final
Hail
play on the
Mary-
Hail Mary because they get away. I know that there's been other Hail Mary calls in the past, but there's always stuff.
The Hail
happening
Mary
the
is
Hail
in the
Mary.
category of, yes, it's probably pass interference, but no, they're never going to call it because it's a Hail Mary. Like, it's one of those plays that should be called all the time, but isn't. So there's no point in looking for it now. Like, it doesn't make a lot. You can find that exact play in pretty much every single Hail Mary that's ever been run, right? Somebody's going to get shoved in the back, and it's never called. Like, every now and again, it's going to get called. It's, it's just one of those plays. I don't think there's any point in looking at that one. But the Valdez-Scantling one was ridiculous as a no call.
So I want to back up and talk about the football here. I know the Chiefs' offense is not nearly as explosive as it has been in the past. But the times that they've lost, or the times when the Packers played it perfectly. The first half had 5 total possessions. Green Bay had 3 of them. So the Chiefs really only had 2 possessions. They also took a knee on their third possession. So they really only had 2 possessions. They got into the tight red zone both times. The Packers held them to field goals. They actually sacked Mahomes a couple times on third down. Very rare. So Green Bay is playing this perfectly. Part of playing it perfectly is executing it perfectly. It's not just stylistically. They had that run game that's going to pick up 3, 4, 5 yards, grind it out. But Jordan Love was just not missing early on. He was unbelievable. And LaFleur did a great job, as I mentioned earlier, misdirection, scheming it up, putting the Chiefs' defense in a bind. Chiefs kept losing defensive players as well. But, man, the Packers played a near-perfect game offensively for how to slow down the Chiefs by keeping the ball away from Mahomes. The only thing they screwed up, I think, the Packers, was right before the half. They were into field goal range and then fell out of field goal range, and they probably left 3 points on the table. But other than that, Packers offense was so good and efficient. And part of the reason why the Chiefs only scored 19 points was because the Packers, held them to 8 possessions. A lot of times teams have 10, 11 possessions in a game. The Chiefs had 8 legitimate possessions in this game.
Yeah, and Jordan Love, so we talked before about how, quarterbacks have improved accuracy in the past, but it generally hasn't been like with the flip of a switch. The last 3 or 4 weeks, Jordan Love has just discovered ball location. He's gone from being one of the least accurate quarterbacks in the league in terms of putting the ball where he actually wants it, regardless of whether it's caught or not, to now the guy, every pass he attempts in the last few weeks has been right on the money. For the third week in a row at least, he was dead on in this game with accuracy for the most part. His adjusted completion rate is extremely high. He's not making the mistakes. He's now making a consistent level of big throws throughout the course of the game. I can't think ever of a player that's made that kind of change literally in an instant. Just randomly throughout the season, he went, you know what, I'm not going to miss throws anymore. Just going to put the ball where I want it to go.
One of the old questions as a former pro athlete, does success breed confidence, or does confidence breed success? And you can see it in Jordan Love. He is playing, as I mentioned yesterday, in Hall of Fame level confidence. So the back-to-back plays, there were also huge turning points in this game. And we've seen this so many times with teams trying to upset the Chiefs. They were 6-point underdogs. And you're playing hard. We saw it with the Raiders a couple weeks ago. You have to make so many good plays to keep the Chiefs at bay. And the Packers, it looked like, they might lose it. They might lose it. They got up early, but it's 21-19 now. The Packers are not going to – I'm sorry, it was 14 – oh, it was 14-12 at the time before this. Packers go for it on 4th and 1. They get into the gun and just go drop back pass, which I know you hate on 4th and 1. They do everything that teams have failed at the last few weeks. 4th and 1, gun, chuck it downfield. And Jordan Love throws the moon ball that just drops somehow into Romeo Doubs.
Such a bizarre play.
That ball it looked like a Hail Mary level of air under the ball, and it's well, that's not going to work. And then it just lands in his hands.
That play was so funny because in one of the sort of montages they had during the broadcast, they showed a replay from the Walmart 4K Skycam.
Well done.
At one point, so Dobbs turns around, looks for the ball, and then has to look up because it's nowhere near where he's looking for it. And then he's turns around. I've never seen a guy adjust by looking vertically up in the air. like by 20 degrees relative to where he started off looking for the football.
Poor Jordan Love and Chris. Every time Jordan Love does something good, it gets compared to either Mahomes. Like anytime any quarterback does something good, it's like, oh, that's Mahomesian. So he gets compared to Mahomes or, of course, Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre. But on this particular play, I think Chris makes a good point. Remember, Aaron Rodgers used to throw the super high Hail Marys that came in at a different angle. This was like one of those that just like came in at a different angle that the defense could not judge it and landed in Dobbs' hands. But then the next play, or whatever plays later, the touchdown pass to Christian Watson.
Yeah.
That was one of those, I'm like, the confidence that Jordan Love is playing with, which maybe a few weeks ago we would have said was reckless, right? You're kind of on your back foot. But now, as you mentioned, like the accuracy is out of this world. And he throws the ball up and away from coverage in the back of the end zone for Christian Watson to go up and get it. It was ridiculous, a ridiculous play.
But that's a perfect.
But those were the types of plays that they needed.
And that he wasn't making earlier in the season. Like that catch to Watson, I think, is a perfect example of like 4 weeks ago or whatever. His location on that throw would have been a yard off, and it still would have been catchable, but it probably would have been broken up, or Watson would have, had to make an adjustment that was more difficult and dropped it, or, something would have gone wrong in that play because Love's ball location would have been slightly off. Instead, he like threads it absolutely perfectly outside of the reach of the DB, and all Watson has to do is just jump up, high point it, and make the kind of relatively routine catch that a good wide receiver is supposed to be able to make. Like that difference, and maybe it's one throw, maybe he would have made this anyway, but this is the type of throw that Love is now making routinely that he wasn't a month ago.
I can't say enough good things about Jordan Love. As far as how he's played the last few weeks, and just in particular the last 2 weeks, it was against the Lions and against the Chiefs, two of the best teams in the league, and he just looks so confident, throwing with the arm talent, like everything just looks incredible for Jordan Love right now. But I keep going back to, did he have a little bit of success that got him playing with great confidence? Did he just hit this tipping point of experience? But the confidence, even just the mastery at the line of scrimmage. He was getting to second plays. He was audibling. They were snapping the ball late in the play clock. He was getting into the right play pretty often. And what I think has happened here is that's opened up the Green Bay offense. Sometimes we definitely think too much about, is it the play call or is it the quarterback? But you're seeing this happen in tandem here. Green Bay can't be creative offensively if Jordan Love is missing easy throws, as he was earlier in the year, if he's just missing everything down the field. But now that he's hitting on some of those, now you get, again, the misdirection. So they get Christian Watson in space, and unfortunately he hurts his hamstring. But as they're trying to grind out the clock and 4-minute drill, a beautiful misdirection play to Christian Watson for a little tap pass, first down. Now he goes down with a hamstring, but even just those types of plays that they're able to run, getting tight ends in space, general end-around plays, they did a great job with all of that. So it's not just Jordan Love, it's his ability to hit passes, play with confidence, and Matt LaFleur's confidence in his own play calling, which was really good with Aaron Rodgers there. It's all starting to come together for Green Bay and their offense.
Yeah, it is. I mean, their offense is coming together. The young players are playing well. Jordan Love's taking a huge step forward. Christian Watson could be a huge blow because it looks like, for whatever freaky reason, post-Thanksgiving Christian Watson in the NFL is a different beast to pre-Thanksgiving Christian Watson.
For real.
So hopefully that's not a bad hamstring injury for him. But everything's working for them. The other element is their pass rush showed up in, not necessarily overall throughout the game, but they showed up in massive downs early in the game and knocked Kansas City out of scoring positions a couple of times. Like, sacking Patrick Mahomes is one of the most difficult things in the NFL to do, and they were able to do it multiple times.
On third down.
Yeah, in critical situations on third down to get the Chiefs off the field.
First two Chiefs drives, they go 70 yards and then 69 yards. And then the Packers had 75 yards in each of their drives, right? But the Packers scored touchdowns, and then the Chiefs scored kicked field goals. And there was a point where the Chiefs came out in the second half, they scored touchdowns on their first two drives. There was a point where the Chiefs had 4 real drives and they'd scored on all of them. But then the last 3 drives, punt, interception, and then the 4th down failed Hail Mary on the comeback attempt. So the interception was also huge. Patrick Mahomes, they tried to run a little pick rub route to Sky Moore. Don't think they got a great look, but Keyshawn Nixon, unbelievable play.
Great play.
Because the whole thing is designed to pick him. He plays over the top of it and then just sprints to the spot. And like a center fielder, like a free safety, just unbelievable ball skills to go pick off Mahomes in the 4th quarter. When it's like, Mahomes and the Chiefs, they're down 5. Of course they're going to go do this. That got the ball back for the Packers. They came back, kicked a field goal, which is huge. So now it's like not only did the Chiefs need a touchdown, they also needed the 2-point conversion, and of course got neither. But the Nixon interception was just massive for the Packers. So yeah, credit their young defense making plays, and can't speak enough good things about this offense. Yeah, Christian Watson finished with 7 catches for 71 yards and 2 scores. Would be a massive loss with that. Looks like a hamstring. Yeah,
the Chiefs, another defense that was essentially down to the 3rd string at linebacker, and the offense they were facing was the same tree as that, Shanahan versus Philadelphia. So Jack Conklin comes in as the 3rd string middle linebacker, makes a couple of plays, but overall was didn't have the best game in the world, but you could tell the difference between Jack Cochran and say Nick Bolton as their primary linebacker was probably significant in the game.
Yeah, I think that kind of caught up to Kansas City. Their defense had been fantastic, but at the same time, Love's making a lot of plays, man. So Green Bay's the team you don't want to run into in the playoffs.
Is this you declaring them that, or this is they have been declared that and you have just identified them as the first?
I'm somewhat declaring that because, man, I don't know what to make of 2 games, but the Packers the last 2 weeks, taking it to the Lions and the Chiefs, they're capable of some high-end ball, man. They're capable of playing some high-end football. I'm telling you, I think the buzz around the league this week is that's what the Packers are going to be declared.
Okay.
But realistically, look, I'm not saying they're going to beat the Niners, Eagles, or the Cowboys, but they've shown they could beat some of the best teams in the league, and pretty convincingly as well. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of bad calls at the end.
Yeah, whatever.
The NFL is not fixed because it was bad for both teams equally.
That pass interference, the non-call, is horrendous. And again, this is an island game where New York is sitting there in direct contact with the officials. The fact that was not fixed live is completely inexcusable, because whatever about missing it live, maybe for whatever reason the ref had a weird angle on the play and it looked not as bad as it was from his angle. Okay, sometimes you're going to miss it, right? New York is sitting there watching this replay and has 40 seconds to buzz down and be like, dude, pull the flag out of your pocket and throw the damn thing on the field. You've screwed this one up. And apparently didn't do that. That is way worse than anything else that happened.
I think it was just as bad. I think the late hit on
You're out of your mind on the late hit thing. That's borderline, and in previous seasons
he wasn't even halfway out of bounds. I kind of get it if it's halfway out of bounds. I still hate it because you're still in bounds.
He was. They made contact.
Look, I apologize if I have the same rant as last week, but the NFL is implementing rules to protect players.
Mm-hmm.
And our friend Mitchell Schwartz maybe called me out yesterday on some of my wording, and because I used the word baiting, that QBs are baiting defenders into penalties. I don't know if they're actively trying to do that, but QBs, they're competitors. They're trying to grab every last yard, right? Whether it's right before they slide, right before they get out of bounds, right before they throw the ball away. They're trying to win. They're trying to be competitive. But I don't think the NFL can have it both ways. If they're going out of their way to protect quarterbacks, the quarterback has to protect himself. This is the whole point, the whole Brady spiel. He wasn't saying all football's bad. He's saying we were taught to protect ourselves and other players. If all of the rules are out there to protect quarterbacks and they're going to start sliding at the very last second, trying to grab every inch of the field before, basically inducing late hits on throwaways, the quarterback has to take responsibility for protecting himself. Now, there's risk. Mahomes lowered his shoulder and got popped by a defender. His fault. If he got hurt, that's a stupid play. to grab that little extra yard. I'm just saying, if the league is going to protect QBs from those hits, they need to like not get the extra yard, not slide at the very last second so guys are kneeing you in the head trying to avoid a penalty. It's bad football. It's ugly, stupid, bad football. That's what needs to stop. And that's why that was such an egregious late hit call, because he's got both feet in bounds. No, clearly a runner.
He's got 1 foot in bounds.
He's clearly a runner.
Look at the picture.
It's horrendous, man.
You're out of your mind if you think that that's not a call that's been made multiple times in recent years. Like, that is a borderline call.
And it shouldn't have been.
Where he's on his way out of the field. He's still got 1 foot in bounds at the point contact is made, but the majority of his body is over the white line. And at that point, absolutely that flag has been thrown.
Wrong. It's absolutely wrong. When the quarterback is trying to get this last inch and it's inducing a 15-yard penalty, they're going to give you 15% of the field.
But you can't say it's an egregious call if it's one that's been routinely made.
Hasn't been made all year, and it was wrong in previous years when they made it too.
But the point is, it has been made a lot in previous years. It only is off this year.
The run? Because he could have gone out half a yard earlier, protected himself. That's what all the rules are designed to do.
It's only off this year because they've pushed back on that specific call and haven't been calling that this year relative to previous years.
That's why DJ Reed ran right by him earlier in the year.
If that gets called last year, nobody's even paying attention to it. They're just like, yeah, all right, it was a late hit. It was a little off. Maybe it should have been in bounds. But nobody's even complaining.
Dude, he starts lowering his shoulder while he's not even to the hash marks yet. He's lowering his shoulder, waiting for contact, because he's a football player waiting for contact on the playing field.
He's bracing for contact because he's going to get hit. When the hit happens.
Because it's a legal hit, because he's running in green grass.
He would have been bracing for contact if it had been an illegal hit. He's getting hit either way. The only question is he getting hit before or after he steps on the white line?
He's also running at an angle. So a lot of times you're running along the hash marks, right? And then you duck out. He's running at an angle where he's running toward out of bounds. He's not necessarily running out of bounds.
Yeah, he's running for the first down marker.
This is as bad as the pass interference. I don't care what you say. It is as bad as the pass interference.
That's ridiculous.
Because if this didn't happen, they call the pass interference call.
That's also ridiculous.
Of course.
This is not.
It's all bad.
No, that's you're absolutely crazy. The pass interference is one of the worst no calls that's been made all season long, and in any season would be an absolutely egregious no call of football.
This is one of the worst late hits I've ever seen. This is one of the worst late hits I've ever seen.
That's one of the dumbest statements you've made on this podcast.
This is one of the worst.
That's absolutely absurd.
Given the time of the game.
No,
it came in like an hour late.
Yeah, I don't even know where the flag came from.
The referee right in front of him is just like, nope.
He wants no part of it. I don't even know where the flag came from, but it's not one of the most egregious calls.
They're just triggered by, just hit him along the sideline. It must be late. Let me throw the flag.
Where did the flag come from?
Way back, Judge. Way back somewhere.
It's not the umpire running it. I don't even know.
No, it's not the guy sitting right in front of him because he's like, hey, the quarterback just braced for contact on the football field and got hit. That's not a penalty.
Or the ref following it in from behind. I literally don't know where this flag comes from.
Man. Sorry if I'm yelling.
Yeah. I mean, you're wrong and crazy, but cool.
He's on the football field when he gets hit, and he's waiting for it because he knows he's a runner running on green grass, and you're likely to get hit.
He's waiting for the hit is the single dumbest argument I've heard you make this year.
Because he was still on the field.
Because
guys don't brace for contact when they're on the white.
Of course they do. That's the stupidest thing you've ever said.
I'm saying
he's running towards another human being that's going to hit him, whether or not he's in or out of bounds. He will be bracing contact.
It's when he knows he's going to get hit because he starts bracing a yard away from the sideline.
You know when he starts bracing? Right as he's about to get hit. Like, he starts bracing at the point where contact is imminent.
Which is a yard away from the sideline.
That's what you do, regardless of when the hit is happening. You don't go, oh, it's cool. I'm going to be out of bounds by the time he hits me, so I don't even need to think about contact because it's illegal. I'm okay.
This is an egregious late hit call. Anyway, Packers 27, Chiefs 19.